You touched on something earlier actually that I'm curious about, fakes, and you've told me a little bit about this in the
I think everyone, I mean, obviously new galleries, and you go to a gallery that's representing living artists, there's no fakes. And no one would really fake a living artist, because all they have to do is say, hey, that's not mine, you know. But dead artists, which I deal in a lot, yeah, there are fakes. And people say it's as much as 10% of the market. I don't think it is, but it's certainly there. And it's not so much if you find a fake or when you find a fake, because you will. It's what you do when you find a fake. So it's knowing the right way to go back to where you bought it from to get your money back. But you have to give the money back to the client straight away. No questions asked. Here's the money. So sorry, I'll sort it out. And sometimes you sort it out and sometimes you got to wear it. But at the end of the day, you've sold it, so the buck stops with you. And often, you bend over backwards to help that client, but they never buy out again. If they've been burnt, they don't buy out again.
Yeah, once bitten, twice shy.
Yeah, so it's a bit of that. I've had that happen to me, but I'm a big believer in it. If you've done or got caught yourself with something and it happens, that you just sort it out very quickly with your client, and then you try and sort it out with whoever you bought it from. It's usually an auction house. And most auction houses are pretty good like that. They'll give you money, they'll return your money. Especially if you're like me, a regular client of theirs, and I work for like 10 to 15 people every auction. So it's not in their interest to upset me because I've got 10 or 15 other people that I'm working with.
How common is it, to come across a fake?
It's not that common. So when people quote 10%, I think that's over the top. But they do come up. I mean, people are probably aware of the Whiteley scandal about a few years ago, where there were 3 major works painted after his death by a conservator. And there was a big long court case, and they couldn't prove it in the end, and they all got acquitted. So it's very hard in this country, and in most countries, to prove that someone has been doing a fake. And also the other way they fall back on is the fact that I've done an innuendo or a copy or an homage to this artist. I haven't signed it. There's nothing illegal about that. I'm not signing it as a Brett Whiteley, but I don't know who signed it. Someone else must have signed it. Maybe some dealer signed it. Who knows who signed it? And they fall back on that sort of stuff a lot. And it wasn't as simple as that when they got acquitted, but they did get tried, and they were convicted, and then a year later they were acquitted. So they never went to jail because they were on appeal out on bail. But that was very notorious. One piece was worth $2.5 million. One was a million, and the other one was 600,000 to 800,000. So it was big money. Whereas with prints and etchings and little things like that, 5 to 10 grand, they're not going to bother probably faking those.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand, I guess, why someone would fake artworks, the money. But I kind of don't understand, if you're that talented as an artist. I mean,
well, he wasn't that talented. The guy wasn't that talented as an artist. He's a very talented conservator, and he was one of the best in Melbourne. But maybe there's a bit of ego involved as well. But if you get they got doors, right? They got just regular wooden doors that were used from a hardware, or they were specially ordered because Brett Whiteley had painted on doors before, and the whole thing would have cost them probably $50 grand to make, and they sold it for what, 2.5 million. Now there were a few other people in the equation, but you're going to probably make, with 3 paintings painted at the same time, $1 million each, the two co-conspirators. So that's why they do it.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot more than he would have made out of restoration, even though he was the most expensive restorer in Australia. But to be fair, he has been acquitted, so he hasn't been convicted. And there it goes. I don't think the police will ever bother prosecuting an art fraud case again, because it's so hard to prove, and they spent so much time and resources on that, and it fell over anyway.